Welcome to another episode of Until It's Done, a devoted podcast. I'm your host, Dana Lynn Kay. And you guys, this is going to be such a fun episode today. I have one of my best friends. Her name is Steph Ranallo here, and she just drove down from Melbourne to visit me finally. This is like such a fun excuse to get you down here because we haven't seen each other in a little while. But Steph and I go back, 2019. 19. Yeah. Okay, so Steph.
It's been a while.
Yes. And we probably literally have almost spoken like every day for like the last 4.5 years. Yeah.
Honestly.
Yes. So we know a lot about each other's lives. We've been through a lot together. Yeah. And a couple years ago into our friendship, Steph had actually said to me, like, yo, we should do a podcast because we've had some awesome conversations. We've had some awesome times. Yeah. We've traveled together. Steph is one of the first person who I ever met and got very close with who went through weight loss surgery. Yeah. And I was really fascinated by her journey. And I was fascinated. She was the first person who I actually got to speak like candidly and openly about, Steph you were 305 pounds.
I was 305 pounds. Yeah. I started in 2016.
Okay.
I started my journey, but
you were the first person who actually I got to speak to and really ask the questions that I was curious about, because there are many people who judge, I don't want to say in a negative way, but you're like, you look at a person who's obese or you look at somebody and you're like, how does that happen? Or, and then they look at you now and you and I connected because you were also on like a fitness journey at the same time. Yeah. So we're going to talk about this episode. You guys, I'm glad you're joining in. This episode is going to be awesome. Steph is going to really shed light on a lot of cool topics. We're going to talk about stuff that I want Steph to talk about because they're things that I would be like, oh my gosh, that's so interesting. And so we're going to get into all that. So first of all, Steph, taking us back to your childhood and how you grew up, give me first, like, I want people to understand, where it started, your family life and all of that.
So let's start by saying I'm full Italian. And food is love, and that's how we show love. Even to this day, if you're coming to my house, I'm feeding you. And of course. My grandmother gets really angry if you don't eat her food. But anyways, food is love. So growing up, I was a very active child. I played softball, big into softball, basketball, cheerleading. My dad had me playing football. I grew up a big kid, and I held it down. I held it down for a while, and I think that when I really got into, I was never a small kid. I wasn't one of those women that, went through high school very slender, and then after college kind of blew up and did all these things. No, I was always a big kid. Biggest in the class. I think I graduated high school just around 200 pounds.
So big meaning like you were overweight.
I was overweight.
Because right now you are not, like whenever people would say to me like, oh, you're just big boned. And my mom would say like, no, she's not. Like if she lost the weight, which really when I would finally lose the weight, I was like, oh, I'm actually not a big person. I mean, you're not a big person. You're like.
I'm a little broader. I'm a little
But
wider.
I wouldn't look at you and be like, oh, damn, she's a big woman.
Right,
like, no,
right,
I mean, Steph is like a very.
I'm 5'5".
Average, nice build. Yes.
But I was very active, so I had a lot of muscle mass on me. And then when I went to college, I stopped doing all of that activity. I stopped playing softball. I stopped playing basketball, and
you had a big lifestyle shift.
I had a big lifestyle shift to the point of a lot of partying. And I entered college around 200 pounds, and then after college, about 8-10 years later, I was 305 pounds, and I got big, and I started to have a lot of health complications. And I was nursing at the time. I've been a nurse for quite a number of years, 15. I was working in cardiac surgery, and I saw a lot of overweight women and men in the beds of the patients that I was taking care of, knowingly that, this is probably going to be me.
Yeah.
Because I had a couple, health scares and
but
diabetes.
Even being a nurse, were you, you were learning, you're a nurse, you're smart, obviously a very smart woman. You're going through nursing school, but yet you're still gaining weight. Mm-hmm. And I
was smoking cigarettes.
Because here's the thing, a lot of people will say, alcohol. "Oh, my doctor says this, my doctor says that." It's like, okay, well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean just because you're a nurse or a doctor.
No, it doesn't. And honestly, and I think we'll touch on this, someone's not going to change their life until they're actually ready.
Yeah.
And I tried so many times throughout my young adulthood. You know, I'd be the one that
Like always on a diet.
And, you know, the one that would cut carbs for 2 weeks and, you know, do a whole bunch of cardio and for 2 weeks and be really happy about that. And then it was not sustainable. And you would cycle through that and cycle through that and cycle through that until it got exhausting and you would just stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the time when I had bariatric surgery, actually, when I had bariatric surgery, I was through the program. Because when I got mine done, you had to do a 6-month program. Some do, some don't, depending on the state. But I went through that program 3 different times before I actually had it done.
Wow.
And I backed out every single time. Because every single time in my mind, I can do this myself. I can do this myself. I can do this myself. When I realized for me, I couldn't at that point. And
do you think it was the lack of knowledge on how to do it yourself? Like, what do you think? Because a lot of times people will call bariatric surgery or weight loss surgery like, oh, you took the easy way out, or, you know, they'll talk down to people like, oh, why couldn't you just lose weight like everybody else? What do you think you were missing that you felt like you had to do the surgery?
I needed that initial push. I needed something so big in my life to say, I had an organ removed. It's time to really get your life together. You're going through a major surgery.
And it puts you up against a wall. Like now you don't have a choice. You can't back out after you have the surgery.
You can't back out. And you know, yes, if I would have known now what I know then, maybe I could have dieted. It would have taken much, much longer for sure. But I think that holding myself accountable needed to be something very grandiose, because otherwise I didn't have that structure or that mentality to keep going. And I'm a person that likes results, right?
Right.
Everything that I've done in my life, whether it was going through nursing school, nurse practitioner school, building the business as a coach, losing weight, I like seeing that I have somewhere to go and a goal to hit. And if I don't hit these goals, then for me, it's not worth it to keep putting for that effort.
Like, that's why you and I hit it off. We're like the same. Same.
So I needed bariatric surgery for me to jumpstart me.
Okay.
And is it the easy way out? Absolutely not, because it's what happens afterwards. And you've heard it. I've heard it. I've seen it being in the industry for so long. People rebound with bariatric surgery. Without it, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
It's what you do with it afterwards. And I looked at it as, this is my shot. This is actually my shot. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, okay, so your driving motivation was your health.
Yes, it was. And at the time I was married to my ex-husband, and I needed bariatric surgery because I was trying to have a kid. Mm-hmm. I needed to lose a massive amount of weight to go through more invasive fertility treatments. I had gotten so big, did some oral therapies, fertility treatments, and my doctor looked at me and said, look, Steph, I can't give you anything else. Your BMI is too high. Anytime I've given a woman at your BMI these more invasive drugs, they've either had a heart attack or a stroke. And I'm like, not doing it for you. So I initially needed that jump start because I wanted to have a baby and I wanted to have it fast.
Yeah.
So that, along with, I had hypothyroidism. I was pre-diabetic. I was on metformin. My blood pressure was going up. I was still smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. All of those things combined, and yes, I needed it for my health, but it totally tailspin my life afterwards.
Wow.
So I got healthy, but I also gained a lot more.
Oh, wow. You gained more weight.
No. I gained a lot more in life.
Oh, I was like, wait. I'm like, I gained a lot more.
No, I gained a lot more in life.
Heading in the wrong direction here.
Surgery. But you do know, after surgery, after a couple things that happened in my life, I did have a couple rebounds up and down. But that's another topic for another time.
Because that's anybody who's like, okay.
So that's why I initially did it. I needed to get healthier. I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. I knew that losing weight is one of the ways to help that. But I had so much to lose, and I was almost 30. Like, let's go. I need to.
Okay. And then so how much did you lose, and how quickly? Like, what was that process? Because this was all. You had just gotten your surgery when we met. Your skin.
Before we met before my skin surgery.
Oh, so we met right before your skin surgery. So how much had you lost, and then you had your skin surgery?
I lost 160 pounds in about, I think it was 16 months.
Wow.
Or maybe less. maybe less. I lost very quickly.
Yeah.
They did not expect me to lose as much as I did. And honestly, I didn't expect to lose as much as I did. And when I had lost all that weight, I looked at myself at one point and I was like, oof, I don't look good.
Yeah.
I looked very sickly.
Yeah.
Because I was not, I wasn't eating and I was
You
doing a lot of
certainly weren't
cardio
training
and I
like
wasn't
you are.
training
Yeah.
like I did.
Yep.
But yeah, I lost a total of 160 pounds. And then over the last, 8 years, I've maintained about 150 off.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
I mean, that's an
about
amazing.
150 off. I kind of hang out around 150. That's my happy spot. And I was 305 at my highest.
And then you had your plastics.
I had plastics 2 years. Yes, 2 years after my bariatric surgery. I decided to wait because someone told me, like, look, Steph, if you're not down where you want to be, don't get plastic surgery because you're not going to want to get plastic surgery and then lose more weight and your skin's going to, get soft again and you're just not wanting to do that. Plus, it's expensive. So
Yeah.
very expensive. So I waited 2 years to do that, and that was in 2018, December of 2018.
Okay.
But in terms of devotion, right after I got my surgery done, a girl that I grew up with since I was a very, very small girl, she was a bikini competitor. And she texted me, she's like, hey, you need to look into this devotion. They have flex flavors. And that's how I got involved with devotion is the flex flavors. Didn't even know about the protein at first.
Yeah.
But she's like, I know you just had bariatric surgery. Put this in like your cottage cheese or whatever else. And so she sent me a bunch. I was like, oh, this stuff is interesting.
Yeah.
And then, then I went on the website, and that's back when it was bold and
Yes,
blue
our old
and
branding.
Stevia protein.
Yes.
And
Yep. Our old OGs.
but she was, I don't know how she knew about it. This had to be in 2016.
Well, she knew about it because she was a bikini competitor. We're big in bodybuilder world and fitness and all that stuff.
Exactly.
So.
And she loved those through her prep.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
gosh, I feel like we have so much to talk about.
We do. We have so much. Okay.
And like to keep it in line.
I know. No, but that's okay because I want to give a timeline of your journey. I love it, and your whole people I think are understanding now how you have come to be, because now if you go to Steph's IG, which I hope after listening to this, if you are just getting introduced to Steph, you'll go check her out. So Steph and I really, really clicked and formed a friendship because, you guys know, for me, I've been heavily into fitness and I competed in bodybuilding, the whole thing. So because Steph also, there are plenty of people who go through bariatric or, weight loss surgery and they lose the weight and they're living a healthy lifestyle. And of course but Steph was taking it even a step further, that you were really getting into the weight training and doing the cardio and like the whole fitness. So then Steph and I had a lot in common because that's where my head's been at for years and what I'm into. So then we had a lot to talk about on that, with that aspect. And then I was learning a lot from her about the weight loss community, and you would come to shows with me, or we did you came.
We did that one bariatric. I think that's how we first met.
Came.
We talked for a bunch.
I reached out to you and
like,
said,
"There's a
would
bariatric show. You have to come with me for this."
And I flew you down to Florida to come with me to Tampa or Orlando.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did that event. We got to know each other and all that, and then also I was kind of like, I'm like a hand, like what, 5 years older than you, 6 years older than you or something. Yeah. And so like I kind of.
So you got to really mentor me.
Yeah.
Not only in fitness, but a lot of the stuff that I didn't know I was going to go through throughout my journey. You went through.
I would call it like I was your fairy godmother telling you like, okay, this is coming next. Like prepare yourself.
No. And then I'm like, oh, Dana, that's what happened.
And I'm like, I know, Steph, I told you that 6 months ago.
Yeah. It really worked out like that. And it's just crazy. Yeah. And I felt that I could relate to you a lot because of you never got bariatric surgery, obviously, but
once we were both past that, once we both lost the weight, then you're kind of on even playing field because now you're like, okay, we both lost weight. It doesn't matter how we did it.
Own struggle,
yes,
and you like to eat, and you have binge eating issues, and obviously I did too. So. Just because you didn't have bariatric surgery.
No, we both understood the love of food. We understood the struggle. We understood emotional eating. We understood stress eating. We got each other at that level to be like, been there, yep, got it. And sometimes when we were still going through a lot of struggles, even in our friendship, that we were there then for each other. We had a lot of support. And then
because we were dieting hardcore at the same time.
Yes. And I had prepped for a lot of shows. Obviously prior, because I started competing in 2006. So the first time you did your like a first like hardcore
my
cut.
actual okay, losing weight after surgery is losing weight
one
after
thing.
is one thing. Whatever. You can't even eat a lot. But when I did that first diet, when I thought I was going to step on stage and compete, that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
And then I stepped in to be like,
there,
hey, let me just like, because I was scared. A lot of the stuff that I went through with my competing and my rebounding and my driving my metabolism into the ground and my overcardioing and and my binging and all the stuff, I was like, hey, I know that it's going to sound like I'm like this negative Nancy all the time trying to ruin your fun, but I don't want you to fall into
the rebound and the binge and
all the stuff that happened
and
to
all
me.
that mental stuff and even though
it's a rough climb
even though
out.
I didn't compete, and the reason why I didn't is because I had so much skin on my legs and it just was going to look bad. I never got those.
And still, I think that I probably turned you off by the time I told you all the nightmares that I went through. You're like,
do you remember you being like, you're going to rebound and you're going to have uncontrollable hunger? And I'm sitting here like, no, I'm not. Get out of here. I got this. And then Dana, I can't stop eating and I'm gaining weight and like, what is happening? I'm so depressed about it. And you're like,
yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to the world.
And sometimes like, as a friend, it's like, I always feel like I have so many friendships like this where it's like, because I went through things and then it's like if I'm close to somebody and I feel like I can open up and like I really care, and then I'm the friend that's always like having to like not be like the bearer of bad news, but always be like kind of like giving them like a dose of reality. Like,
so it's a reality check. I work very well with reality checks.
You've always been a good friend for that.
Always been.
I've lost friends because, like I told you about the girl, I lost friends where I would be honest with somebody and say, "Look, you're not ready to compete, or something's not going on," and then they are like, "You're not supportive," and I'm like, "Okay,
but
you're not like that.
That is no, I'm not. But that is support to me.
Yeah,
I like that realism. You're very real with me. Derek, my business partner and coach, he's very real. And that makes me, I don't like to be cheerleaded. So yeah, of course, like there would be things that you said to me and I like get a little chip on my shoulder. Like, how is she going to talk to me like that?
Right.
And then it would happen and be like, she was right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And then you realize it's coming from a good place because I could easily step back and just be like, all right, she's going to have to learn a lesson or let her fall on her face and this is going to suck. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to say something because if you see somebody go through some shit and you don't, and you're like, damn, like
you care enough.
I can sleep at night knowing like, look, I said something. I was there. I'm a friend. I'm not going to just watch this happen without saying something. But sometimes you do have to learn that way. And you had to learn that way. I had to learn that way.
No, I had to put myself, and we kind of talked about this earlier. I had to put myself through some of those things. Yeah. Am I mad that I had bariatric surgery and then I dieted really, really, really hard and did all the things? I'm not mad about anything that I did in my journey.
It was part of your journey.
It is. But dang, did I learn a lot.
Yeah, we both have. Because look at all this shit. You even had to then put me back in check because I had old school bodybuilding built into me. Because
you would never eat. You wouldn't eat.
Because I was always thinking I needed to be on a diet. I needed to push harder, go harder. No days off. I was in that mentality from all the years of the old school bro type of preps that I've been through. I was like, well, that's how you get there. That's how you stay
Not only
there.
That, as women, that's what we just know is do more. And if you're not doing something, you're not doing anything.
Right. And you're feeling lazy.
And you're lazy and you're not equaling up to whatever things that we put in our mind. But
so you and I, okay, so we were also very close because our schedules would coincide where we'd both be up super early grinding
we were
on
doing cardio at like 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yep. And both of us were like abusing caffeine.
Oh my God. I tell people, you have no idea how much caffeine I was taking when I was dieting. Like, please don't do that. Lord, please let me just tell you, don't do it. I'm fine. Yeah, but you won't be.
No, you won't be. And you and I went through that together.
Oh my God.
And then doing the crazy amounts of cardio, the endless cardio.
Especially when like we were on lockdown. Remember we were... Dana, burning. I was running for 75 minutes straight. I wouldn't run for 75 minutes straight if you hung like...
Unless a bear was chasing you for 75 minutes.
I would have to stop.
Yeah. You'd be like, you know what, bear, you win.
This is enough.
I can't do it. Yeah.
Running up an incline I was like, how did I do
just wearing your body out, like wearing yourself out, and it wore away at our hormones. It wore away. And then we were basket cases because we were exhausted.
And you know what? I didn't even know that I was a basket case. Remember at the end of my diet, you were like, you were terrible, Stephanie. I didn't even want to talk to you. I'm like, I was fine. You're like, no, you were awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't even know.
And then there were times that I'd be awful. And then we'd come down on each other, and it was just like, or then, okay, so we talked about, so a lot of times we would talk about, not be, get out of the pity party. This is just the work we have to do in order to get to where we want to be.
Yeah.
But, it's like we're these women, if that's what you think that it takes, and we're women, like you said, we're goal oriented,
yes, very much.
And we want to be a certain way, and we want to be, and it's like, you look at, all these people, and you're thinking they must be just like grinding hard, and like on social media, you see where years ago it used to be a lot of go hard, no days off.
Yeah, and I said that. I said that
too.
to many, many clients and all these things until I learned.
Like you sleep when I'm dead. I'm like, yo, that's
and
out the
I'm
window.
Like,
and now I'm like,
sleep over anything right now.
Right? Like I'd rather just sleep and then not be falling apart at the seams and exhausted and miserable.
It's so crazy just looking back, like where I was, how deep I went in my fitness, and like where I am now. It's just, I don't reflect a lot. And when I do, I'm just like, dang.
Yeah.
Like this is full circle. And you know what? People still DM me like, how many days are you in the gym? You must work out all the time. I'm like, I train 3 days a week, and I might do a little bit of cardio.
So Steph and I both at the same time had to learn,
and
it was really
down.
You learned it before I did.
Yeah.
I was still grinding, going hard, everything, and then you finally really had to, because you had, and we'll go into this in the next episode, but after your divorce,
a huge life change, huge rebound, just everything kind of.
And we'll talk about that, but like it finally forced you to have to do the scary thing that you and I together were both kind of scared to face, which was, okay, admitting that we needed to rest more, admitting we needed to eat more.
And pull back.
And pull back. And we both had to check ourselves with stress levels.
Because what do those 3 things look like to us? I'm eating more, I'm working out less, and I'm resting more. What does that look like? That looks like weight gain. And what were we so afraid of is weight gain. But at the same time, you did it after your divorce, and then I followed suit not too far. But we were gaining weight, dieting, and gaining weight, doing cardio every single day, and gaining weight.
Just overstressing ourselves.
And,
And it did lead to a lot of binge eating. It led to a lot of things that we both were like, what are we doing?
At the end of the day, and then emotional support with food. And I would find myself in my bed with a box of cookies and nut butter, and like, and what am I doing?
And you're like, I know I've come this far, and now I'm like regressing back to old habits.
Yeah. And it was just like this massive stress response until, it was just, I had to slow it down.
But
and that's when I did my hormones and things like that.
And your hormones, it's really figuring out, because really we were running our hormones into the ground. You end up just doing too darn much. And
that's not abnormal. So that I want women to know that this, having hormones being off, is not abnormal, especially after bariatric surgery. Look, our bodies come from being morbidly obese, eating who knows how many calories.
Yeah.
7, 10,000, who knows, whatever, to almost nothing. Like just that alone with the hormonal
That's
shift,
stressful on a body.
It's stressful on a body. And I think that, women kind of aren't looking at that. And as I've been coaching women, 20-year-olds, 30, 50, 60-year-olds, I'm finding that as a woman wants to lose weight in her later 30s into 40s, that looks a lot different than a 20-year-old trying. And there's a lot of different hormonal things going into play. Not saying that hormones are always the case of the inability to lose weight, because a lot of it is mostly overestimating your food and not being in line with your structure. But when you do all of that and you're like, no, I'm like really grinding and things feel off, then, it's to look a little bit deeper. And I think that women just think that they should feel off and feel fatigued and feel run down because we have 4,000 things to do in a day. And that's not necessarily normal, but we think
Right. We think
normal.
that equals like productivity.
So that's what I thought,
Yeah, I know. I
and
totally,
you were there too. Yeah.
I was there too. And, nowadays it's like, I'd rather, if I have the choice, if I'm feeling run down, it's like, oh, do I push
No,
or do
it's
I
not
chill?
anymore.
And it's like, now I'm like, no, you know what? I need to chill today.
In my 20s, maybe. Not.
No,
I want to take a nap.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Exactly. And so.
And when I rest people 3 days in a row, they first of all, they lose their canoodle about resting 3 days in a row. But at the end of it, they're like, wow, I feel so good. And I just hit a PR.
Because we need to reprogram our mind that resting is part of the program, and resting that's actually the building phase, and that's the repairing
butt got so
phase.
much better when I rested more. You want to grow your butt, you better rest it.
Right? And it's like, for some people, they don't understand. They think that they're building in the gym. And it's like, no, that's where you're tearing it down. It's when you actually rest and let everything regenerate and build back up again and get stronger. So it's like, why people go crazy when you have to rest. And I felt lazy, like I was not putting in work. And yet rest is actually work. Like that is part of the process. Like that is when your body is putting in the work to rebuild.
And like when we say rest, we're not saying like you have to stay
to
in
lay
your
in
bed.
your bed, like lay on yourself, like. But yeah, you don't need to
like
be.
you can go on a walk and do some yoga.
Yeah,
and like
active recovery.
do some active stuff.
But you don't
have to
tearing
like
it
be in a
up.
coma. But
right. It means like taking it easy and doing the things that do bring you back to where you're just like, okay, I'm feeling good again.
My joints aren't hurting, and I don't know about you, but I know one of my triggers when I'm like just overworked is my quads won't stop aching.
My legs ache, my whole everything. Aches.
And then when it's really bad, my hair hurts. And that's all. I know that's weird, but like my hair hurts.
Yeah.
And I know that's my.
And where you've like,
you need
okay,
a couple
I pushed
days off.
way too hard.
You need a couple days off stuff. Yeah. But my quads start aching. And that's when like my first cue of, okay, I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about not like sore, like I just trained them the night before, but I'm talking about like I haven't done legs in 3 days and my quads are still aching.
Yep.
I'm a little overworked. That's my trigger. And I think, staying in the lifestyle and keeping up with your training and your diet and blah, 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 you start to learn these triggers about yourself as you keep going. I didn't know that before. I would have never thought like.
It's being more in tune with your body.
Yeah.
When you were 305 pounds.
And I didn't know anything.
You were not in tune with your body. You didn't know whether you were holding water. You didn't
bloated,
know.
nothing.
You didn't know anything. And you weren't in tune with your body and your muscle and how you were feeling and are you run down? And because it just wasn't, you just didn't have that mind-body connection.
No, not at all. And like I would go out at night and party and, have a couple drinks and wake up and do it the next day. And if I did that now, I'd be like, my joints hurt. And
but you weren't worried about your hydration or getting your steps or none of it. So this is a massive lifestyle shift. But the crazy part is, I mean, sometimes people feel like they have to like change this, make a crazy lifestyle shift when really, like what I said, it's like getting in more movement. Like if you weren't thinking about that at 305 pounds,
no.
But like if those things had been a priority to you back then and nutrition, what like you used to talk to me about like, okay, what a normal night out would look like.
Oh my God. No, it was, whenever I was home by myself, my night when I was home by myself, I would have, what would I have? I would have a Snickers bar, a whole bag of
those pretzels,
honey onion Snyder's pretzels, and a 2 liter of Coca-Cola. And that was what my treat was, being at home by myself. And
oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, a 2 liter of Coca-Cola. Like just flood your system.
But those pretzels sound really good right now.
No, like all that stuff is good, but the quantities that you were doing it
that's what I would do. Like I consumed all of that at one time. But that was just like a random.
Or when you went out to Mexican and you'd get those drinks that I could probably take a bath in, like the bathtub, like those Mexican.
They were called Big Ass Margaritas from Mad Mex in Pittsburgh. And if you guys are from Pittsburgh, you know about Mad Mex.
Split that with a few friends.
You know about Big Ass Margaritas. One is like 700 calories and like, I don't know, 70 grams of sugar. I'd have 4. And
as your beverage.
Just
and then
chilling.
Like what?
And then, appetizer and dinner or whatever. And that was just
gosh.
Dinner. And
it's wild.
After I had bariatric surgery and I looked at, because I was like, I want a margarita. And I looked at the Big Ass Margarita, like nutrition. That automatically became something not worth it to me. And I still do that to this day.
But isn't that amazing? Like when you were in that mindset, when you weren't worried about your physique.
You didn't care.
You're not thinking about how many calories is this drink. Oh, great. I'll have, there's 700 calories. Great. I'll have 4. I don't even care. And like, that's just to wash down what was that? You told me.
The Gobblerito.
Yeah.
It's back right now. But the Gobblerito.
I mean, that's like a small, like, infant.
It's a small, it is a small infant, and that was dinner, but,
and like that, so that's like on top of the So I mean,
but like
I didn't think and you're not even thinking about it.
And I don't think other people do. Like, you know, when they go out drinking every single weekend and they're having daiquiris and pina coladas and all this shit,
and they're just ordering another. I'll take another.
I'll take another. I'll take. Do you realize that you just drink 900 calories worth of stuff, and then the next day you're like, why can't I lose weight? Because you just drank 900 calories,
and you did it on the weekend, and just because it's the weekend, it still
every
counts.
Weekend. Yeah. So I do that to this day, though. Like, if there's something, and I know that you talked about having Bailey on the podcast.
Yeah, I do. I want
my
her
friend
to come
Bailey,
down. Yeah,
she is like the emotional food champion of the world. She taught me a lot too.
Yeah, I'm excited to have her on.
She has like very good. You know, she has a course called Friends with Foods, and it's just amazing the things that she puts together. But she always says, if you have something in front of you and it's literally not worth your calories, why are you going to eat it?
Oh, I do that all the time. I'm just like
one
it's
bite,
not.
ew, I don't want it. And when I looked at something like that big ass margarita and realized that it had 70 grams of sugar in it, or maybe even more, I think that's what I'm just remembering. Why am I going to do that?
Why?
For what?
Yeah.
For absolutely why?
Yeah.
So I still do that to this day, and
like
kind of gauge
know,
it.
Like
I
when
didn't
you
know
were
I didn't know
that. So it's like if sometimes it, you know, I'm not saying that it's bliss, but like when they say ignorance is bliss, it's kind of like, yeah, you're like, I'm just having fun because I have no freaking idea, and I don't have that whole like, you know, for me. It's like I would like look at the menu, and if I see that caloric next to it, where it's like something where it's
it's like 2,000 calories for the meal. I'm like that looks really good, but man, I can't do that. I'll try to make that at home if I really want it.
And then when you really understand being in a deficit, what it takes to lose, what it takes, you know, what calories are burned in workouts and whatever, all of a sudden you start understanding the value of. Okay, that's energy expenditure, and I don't know that I have it in me to. I'm not a marathon runner. Like that is not going to come off. Like that's a lot of
food for no reason.
Exactly. That's just going to get stored now back on my body.
Truth be told, sometimes it's worth it.
Sure. I mean, there's a time and a place, and
for
you know,
sure. But like, you know, if we're going out and
it can't just be like every weekend, just because you're home alone one night after a long night of nursing shift. Yeah. Then I deserve it. Like really?
There's like. Why?
Yeah,
drink
right.
some water.
Yeah, and then you'd also, we spoke about with your body. You had said that you didn't even realize what I don't know. I think.
No, I didn't realize.
You said something like, I didn't even realize you were supposed to see my own vagina. Like you're like, I looked down and I had this big belly, but I didn't even know.
I didn't. You guys judge me if you want, but
no one's judging you. This is where an open.
But like, you know, I grew up as a big kid, and I always had like a little bit of a gut over top of my vagina.
Sure.
And I never knew until I was probably like in high school that a belly was supposed to be flat.
Or that it was like, that you were like,
you were supposed to look down.
You don't have to look down and see like the round belly.
I was like, this is just me. This is normal. I'm a normal kid. Like,
yeah,
everyone in my family has a role.
We're not saying it's bad or that maybe naturally somebody just has a round belly, but like, no, for a child to be 300 pounds, like, no, that's not, you know,
it's just, we're not saying anything. That just looking back is funny to me because I didn't know what health and fit. I really just didn't.
You just weren't aware.
I
you weren't. Know. It wasn't something that was like part of your life, and it wasn't brought to your attention. And
no, my parents were very big on stay active in sports and get good grades. And you know, we grew up great kids. Me and my brother were very. We grew up.
And your parents were not bringing health and fitness, and like, were they like super? They weren't fit. Like they weren't fitness people.
No, they weren't. No, and they never really did any of that.
So it wasn't like you were being exposed to it and like understood.
No,
like,
and it wasn't any fault of theirs.
I'm just saying that the lifestyle that you were brought up in.
Yeah,
like,
we just didn't think about it.
A lot of times it's really like we've spoken about this in the past, like what you're exposed to. Even my mom has said that. Like, well, my grandpa had a set of weights in the basement, so she's like, I'd see my dad.
I mean, we were always
training,
like, you know, playing softball in the back, playing baseball in the back. My dad did have some weights. My dad was a big football player growing up, and he lifted very, very, very heavy.
Yeah.
But we never really had that like nutrition piece. Like if you wanted it, you eat it, and
right. And that's nutrition at the
we
end of the
make
day.
food. We like the food,
Right.
Eat the food,
And
like,
nutrition at the end of the day is the magical part of this whole journey.
Yeah, it wasn't
really.
like put away the soda and have a water, ma'am. You know, like
Right.
it was, none of that really.
Right. And if it was out on the table, it was like, okay, then eat it. Like that's part of what we're
or
all
you walk
eating
in and immediately like, you want to eat? You want to eat? Eat,
right.
eat.
And you have like
Here's a cookie.
and then and you have your like things that you love, like that almond tart that you always have for your birthday. Like, but now you have it. And you celebrate, and like you also know, like, okay, there's only a certain amount I'm going to eat of it. I don't need to.
No, I love that burnt almond tart, and I have it. I have one piece, a large piece.
Sure, it's your birthday. It's
on my birthday, and but before, I would have a cake to myself. Like there was no stopping me when I really love something. And
right.
You know, now I can stop myself. I'm just mentally more aware of that. But yeah, there are things. But I have to be honest. When I first got bariatric surgery, I was hard on myself. Dana, I didn't have a slice of pizza for the first 6 years of my journey. Pizza, I loved it. Don't get me wrong. But as soon as I got off that OR table, that was off limits to me.
Yeah.
Fast food, I still haven't went through a fast food drive-through.
Yeah.
To this day, I have not.
Now, do you think, is that the fear of gaining back?
Right now?
Yeah, why do you think that? Okay, so then it was like...
Yes, I was like, these are bad foods for me. And I did do that. And
so it was like the black and white thinking.
You know, I preach like there's no bad or good foods. But for me, I had to put that in some type of perspective.
Right.
Because I see so many men and women get bariatric surgery and not really change their identity and change what they're actually doing, but just eat smaller quantities of what they're already doing. And guess what? They're going to lose weight. Because you can't eat 5 pieces of pizza anymore, but you can still have a half of a piece.
Right.
For now.
Sure.
For me, that stuff was off limits. I was very, very hard on myself.
Yeah. Well, I did that too. Like when I went into the fitness, like really being like, it was like, okay, fitness people don't eat this, we eat this. And, and it was like, I eat chicken and broccoli and rice. And it was like, so I understand the black and white thinking.
And there were a lot of things that I knew that I couldn't control myself around. So, I honestly just didn't do it. Am I mad about that? No, not really. Because now I can have it without fear. I'm fine now.
Right.
And I don't even really think about it, to be honest. But I think me being very hard on myself, at least initially, really set the tone of what the next 8 years was going to look like in my journey. Because we do hear about this a lot. People getting weight loss surgery and rebounding and gaining all their weight back. I can't tell you how many people still come to me and came to me when I said that I wanted to get bariatric surgery. Oh, everybody I know that got that gained their weight back. It's not going to be effective.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And looking at it and being in this population and working with this population, those who don't gain a lot of weight back really put a lot of effort in changing their old ways.
Yeah.
Like...
because it has to become your new. You leave your old life behind.
That life,
right?
As crazy as it sounds, you gotta leave that stuff behind.
Yes,
and you know
because it wasn't working for you. All the habits that you did got you to where you were. Yeah. So no, that wasn't working. It got you to 305.
It didn't work. Right.
Right. So leave that behind, and there has to be not only you're changing. You're not just changing your body. You're changing your mind. It's mindset.
It's mind over anything.
Yes,
anything. Honestly,
and then relearning a new lifestyle. Relearning that,
relearning who you are.
Yeah, and that these habits have to be daily. They're a lifestyle habit. Lifestyle means it's part of your life every day. Just like you wake up and you brush your teeth, you wash your face, you put on deodorant, you do the thing. It's like you're like, okay, well, that's what I do because, why wouldn't I?
Right.
Okay, well, these things are, why wouldn't I be drinking my water and hydrating my body? Why wouldn't I be walking?
Why wouldn't I take a walk every morning?
Right. It's part of what I do. I move my body. I stretch. I do all these things. And so it has to be where it's just like a no-brainer. And
it wasn't without
a lot of work.
Fighting for it.
You had to, yes.
I immersed myself, man. I immersed myself. And I think we're going to talk about this in a future episode, but I changed my friend group.
Yep, we're going to talk about this because
I isolated, and that's maybe not the best advice, but I needed that for me.
But that's oftentimes what happens, whether you're weight loss surgery or an entire lifestyle. Look, if there are people who are alcoholics, there are people who are drug addicts, there are people who all different things. And when they need to leave an unhealthy lifestyle behind, things have to change because they were being exposed to maybe habits, people, environments that were not conducive to the new life, to a new healthy lifestyle. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And it's kind of crappy because if you're a food addict,
well, you can't escape
food. Exactly. So like, what do you do?
Yes. And that
for
was
me,
always,
I had to escape a lot of those outings and parties that I know that, at least initially.
Because those were your pitfalls.
Those were my pitfalls.
And I get that. I was in the same thing. Like those were the times that I knew, like I could be strong all week. And then I knew if I went to a social event and I'm a people pleaser and I want to be like, hey, I'm fun. I'm hanging out. You guys want to order pizza? And yeah, let's order. And I knew that was a weakness for me. Boom, there I go again. And I just ate freaking, most of a pie. And and it's like,
And at the beginning of bariatric surgery, it's awesome because you can
sit literally like, I'm like, I can't even eat that.
I can't even eat that. Like
I never had that issue. Like I can always fit it.
But I preach to this about 4 years out from bariatric surgery. Those portion sizes are going to start to get a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger.
Because you don't even consider yourself. You don't say like I'm post bariatric anymore. You're like, no, that lasted like a year, and now you're like
2 years. 2 years.
Okay.
I honestly don't identify as a bariatric patient anymore. I don't do anything that really reflects having weight loss surgery. I don't have a restriction. I don't eat a certain way.
Yeah.
I'm just a girl that...
Like, I don't, other than this conversation, like, we don't talk about it or think about it anymore. Like, I mean, all the, the fact that it was part of your history was interesting for talk to, but...
It got me to where... It was a catalyst to where I am now. Yep. But if you look at my life, if you just met me in the last year... You wouldn't,
and you're not going to bring it up. Like
you would never know that I had bariatric surgery because I don't eat small portions.
By the time you and I were hanging out, you were already like, no, like we crushed food together. Like we make big salads. We would, it's not like it was like honestly, a weird.
I lost a huge restriction. Probably, I would say like 2 years in for me. And I do know people that are still, years into their journey that still can't eat a lot. I don't know why I was a lucky one that could eat a lot. Soon out, but thank God I changed my ways because I can eat a lot of food.
Yeah, you can. But you know what? And now you've gotten really only you eat a lot of food, but you do it. You've built muscle because you can eat a lot of food. Hey.
We got Jagger in the building.
We have our mascot here. So you've actually, it's been great because in order for you to really sculpt your body and make the changes aesthetically, you've been able to eat the amount of food like we spoke about. We weren't eating enough, but it's like, okay, well, when you finally can feed your body right too, you can crank that metabolism back up. You can build muscle. There's so many great things you can do.
Isn't eating fun?
And eating's fun, and you can exactly. Like it's like to me. I mean, I never went through weight loss surgery, but I was always like, oh my God, I would freak out. Like it's scary to me to not be able to be like, oh, I can only eat a little bit. Like, I mean, because I'm a volume eater, so that to me is terrifying.
I say this because I kind of live like I don't live a very. I guess it's going to sound wrong. I don't live a very strict lifestyle, but if you look at me, you would think I do because I still train.
Yeah, but your lifestyle is now so healthy that it's like
what it is,
more
right?
effortless. It's when we talk about lifestyle, it's because you're not saying like you don't consider it now grinding every day because you're like, this is kind of just like what I do.
This is what I do, right?
And because the things are so health focused, and they do work towards a bigger picture of like if you're weight training, you're going to keep on beautiful muscle. If you're if you're doing these things, so now once you made it, you're like, this is my lifestyle.
Like what I do now is easy, but let me tell you, I still think about things, right?
Yes.
So just yesterday, and I'm going to use this example. I was hungry all day yesterday. I still track my food. That's important to me because one, I want to make sure I'm still hitting my protein. I know that whenever I don't get my protein, I feel very soft and I don't like that look on me anymore. So I make sure I'm at least tracking my protein. And I don't want to like go over crazy calories. Anyways, tracking my food, and I made pot pie for dinner last night. Yeah. And the serving of pot pie that I have is 20 grams of fat. Well, I had tracked my food and I was already at 55 grams of fat. So guess what? What I didn't get to have last night was the freaking pot pie because I was like, I already had so many fats. Do I really need this pot pie? And I just settled for, a nice chicken salad, which was great and it tasted yummy.
Yeah.
So I do still play those.
Okay. But you have to, that's being aware. You have to always stay on top of it.
And you know what?
It's accountability. It's
did it hurt me if I brought my fats up to 75 or 80 last night? No, not really. But did I need to? No, not really.
But it's just being aware and then knowing
so it's
that.
Like, you got to play. You got to play. And you have to always, I think that people think that they get to their goal or they get it and they get to stop. Every time I've stopped.
No, it's until it's done. When you're devoted, it's never done. Like, this is why it comes back to until it's done. You're not ever done if you really care about making it a lifestyle. You always have to be aware, but that's like anything.
And there's seasons to like push a little harder. Like,
sure,
I have an event. Like, I'm getting married again. I'm going to be getting married in 2025. Yep. Obviously, before then, I'm going to do a little diet. Like, duh.
Yeah,
I'm going to not eat the pot pie.
But the nice part is that
cardio,
you're gonna just manipulate your lifestyle. You're not going to be like, okay, now I'm going to make an entire transformation and I'm going to start doing stuff I haven't ever done, and I'm going to
right.
It's like, no,
yeah, like Zumba. I'm not doing that.
No, but now you're gonna know. You're gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna add a little more activity. I'm gonna pull back a little, whatever, and you're not gonna have to kill yourself because it's already stuff that you do, but you can manipulate the variables.
Right. So like, there's seasons once you get into it, and that you've been in it for a while. Like I said, for the wedding, I'm gonna diet a little bit harder. I'm gonna make sure I don't skip my cardio and track my food a little bit tighter, and maybe not put as much creamer in my coffee.
Yes.
And then, but when I was in nurse practitioner school and I was so busy and running back and forth and running the business and doing all these clinicals, I didn't have time to do all of the things. Right. So I had to take a little step back and be okay with that.
Yep.
I didn't gain any weight because
but again,
I got myself to the point.
And you manipulated your variables and you're like, if I'm not, I do that. I had prepped for a photo shoot and it's like, people are like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, how did you, cause I tightened up. I don't know if it was maybe 5-6 pounds, and I look great for the shoot, and whatever. But it's like, oh, what did you do? What did you do? I'm like, well, I
just stopped my bullshit.
I was like, I added in a little bit more activity. I took some extra walks. I cut the crap, which meant I stopped snacking like on various stuff. Like if my kids were eating something, I'd be like, oh, what do you got there?
Yeah.
I stopped all of that. I cleaned up, and
bites, the sips, the licks, they add up.
Yeah, all those little things, and then within, I don't know. I took my time. I think I did like 6-8 weeks. I mean, you guys. I told you about that. I was doing it. And all of a sudden, it's like my body like whoop, right back down and we're good to go. Mm-hmm. It's like I wasn't like, I'm in a prep and I'm eating fish and asparagus. And
I tell my ladies like, yo, you need to push hard. You need to really change your life. But let me tell you, in a couple years, this will all make sense. And it's going to be like a Zen flow state and you're going to love your life.
Yes.
I love the fact that I can go out and have a dinner, whatever freaking dinner that I want, not wake up in the morning holding a bunch of water and feeling like I'm going to be 300 pounds again, because those thoughts came rapid, throughout the first couple of years of my life. But I know now that like I'll never be that person again.
Yep.
And people always ask me like, what were you like at 300 pounds and when you were bigger? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even really remember it.
Yeah, you're a whole new person now.
Like, yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of that, we're going to talk about that on our next episode of how when you make these big lifestyle changes, whether it's weight loss, surgery, or just changing your fitness lifestyle, we're going to talk about that, relationships, friendships, all of that. So Steph will be back joining me. Thank you for being on this episode. And we're going to do this again shortly. So thanks for everyone for listening. This has been an episode of Until It's Done, a devoted podcast.